Hi, I'm Will Strong. I'm the Director of Research at Autonomy, a think tank all about the future of work. So the reason why I think the shorter working week should be a policy or demand for the 21st century for our societies is for a number of reasons. Let's start with environmental. So many studies have shown a strong correlation between long working hours and the carbon intensity of our economies. Juliet Shaw's study of 27 different OECD countries shows that economies with longer working hours have a much greater carbon footprint. And that's not just because of the kind of work that we do, but also the kind of activities around work. So commuting, a lot of people still drive to work. That's very carbon intensive, but also the kind of goods that we buy. So other studies from Fremsted about 2 years ago now, Fremsted et al., they basically show that each households with longer working hours have buy much more carbon intensive goods, things like ready meals, water bottles, plastic water bottles, and so on. While those families with shorter working hours, those households with shorter working hours, tend to make meals at home with fresh goods and so on, have the time to actually kind of actualize lives outside of a fully kind of commodified lifestyle. So both in terms of the work that we do and the kind of consumption around work, longer working hours are bad for the environment. And the final point on the environmental question is really that in terms of electricity consumption, we consume most of our electricity in the UK, at least, at around 7 p.m. It's peak 7 p.m. on weeknights. On weekends, electricity consumption drops hugely, and on bank holidays as well. So adding an extra day, let's say a 4-day week, let's say if we had a 4-day week, we'd have a Friday off. Adding an extra day to our weekend would severely reduce our electricity consumption, which is really important going forward. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about a shorter working week? We're talking about more or less a 32-hour week with no loss in pay. So at the moment in the UK, we normally work around 42 hours on average per week. So we're talking about a reduction to 32 hours. It could be spread across 5 days. It could be in 4 days. But the important thing is there's no loss in pay there. This is really important because our economy is severely unequal. Wealth and income are both really concentrated at the top of our society within the economic elite, and there's a huge amount of precarious work, currently lots of unemployment because of COVID, but also lots of underemployment, those people who can't get enough hours, can't get enough pay, and can't think, let's say, long term. They can't have a career because they're always jumping between jobs to jobs. So we have this huge imbalance between those with stable jobs and tend to work quite a lot of hours, and those who have very few hours, who can't get enough hours, can't get enough income. So we need to rebalance that. A shorter working week is a way in which we can do that. A fairer sharing of working time across society is really important. It's not only an environmental demand, but also one which is socially and economically the right thing to do. Okay, finally, I think it's important to recognize that we have a huge amount of burnout in our society. So I mentioned that we have a lot of overwork, but the numbers from the government themselves are very stark. So over half of all sick days taken in the UK are because of work-related stress, anxiety, and depression. It's about 17 million work days per year. This is from the Health and Safety Executive. Now, the primary cause of that work-related stress, anxiety, and depression is workload pressure. So we're an overworked society, but one which also has lots of underwork. So underwork is an underemployment, sorry. And so I think whether we think about it from an environmental angle, a mental health or angle, or kind of social economic justice angle, I think a shorter working week is something which we need to move to this century. I'd say in the next 5-10 years, we have an environmental crisis looming. We have a pandemic which has really thrown work into question. I think the next step for us, for all these good reasons, is to move in that direction. And I think the important thing to remember, just when we talk about this issue, which I think can sometimes sound quite utopian, is really that when the weekend was created, and remember, we've only had the weekend really since the 1940s and 50s. The weekend was created by trade unions demanding from their employers they want more free time, and they want more time for themselves, time for their family, time for their friends. When the weekend was created, the same pushback occurred that we're seeing today. So employers, large employers, factory owners, and so on, saying this is impossible. We can't afford there being a 5-day week. We need to have 6-day weeks, 7-day weeks. But what's important to remember is that what seemed impossible then became normal, and now we take the weekend as natural. So I think going forward, we should always remember this when we have these debates, that what was once working time reduction was always seen as impossible until it happened. And so I think as a society, I think it's time to get behind this demand for for economic, environmental, and social reasons. Thanks.